Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Lethal Introspection Podcast. I am Matt. With me, as always, the beautiful and wonderful Hannah and Jose. Say hello.
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 And today, after much discussion and consternation, we decided, in the spirit of the spooky season, to watch a spook, but not an original spook, a reboot spook. Mm-hmm. This one being Hellraiser, 2022's Hellraiser. And I think we sort of converged on this decision because we each feel a little bit differently about what we wanted out of the movie. Hannah and I had seen this newer Hellraiser before. She said she forgot most of it. So for her, I think it was kind of like watching it anew. Jose's never seen it.
Nope.
So it was brand new for him. And for me, I had argued in the decision-making process that this movie is better than the original, and I am ready to take the internet's flack for that take. That being said, we finished it not too long ago, so it is still fresh in our brains, and I wanted to pass it off immediately to Jose for your first impressions.
Well, having no real frame of reference, and really, this could just might as well just be a fresh new IP from those wacky people in Hollywood. I liked it. I didn't love it. Mostly because of the human characters, like the actual monsters and stuff. I thought those were all really, really cool. Mm-hmm. I thought the eldritch aspect of their god and their really just the misconceptions and miscommunications between what people think they can offer and what they actually are bothering to offer. It's really is very cool because it almost feels exactly like people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and stuff warn about when it comes to like talking and trying to communicate with aliens and just trying to let them know that we're here, because you don't really know the intensity of the other being's intentions when it comes to you saying things like, I like love, I like knowledge, I like pleasure, I like sensation. Like all of those things, if you were a creature with flesh and blood, yeah, you can get an understanding of it, but there are certainly, like they said, thresholds that you can reach, and eventually, just like they said, you don't ever go back on thresholds. Mm-hmm. And humanity is a pretty good example of that, right? We don't go back in intelligence, and nobody's trying to really do that unless you're trying to take us all out. But at the same time, the threshold of intelligence from the simian that we were to the Homo sapien that we are now is a threshold that we do not go back on, and now we're only trying to push further, even if it hurts sometimes, mm-hmm. and it does hurt all of the time, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ask those monkeys with the Neuralink chip.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. But you can't. They're all silent now.
They've all gone to sleep. Mm-hmm. So, Hannah, what did you think? Did we make the right choice picking the newer one? And how are you feeling about it as we watched it?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's the movie's good fun for the most part. I don't think it needed a reboot, to be honest with you. I think the original is really good. Yeah, and like the original, and it could be just because I watched the older one first, but it was just such an unforgettable movie for me. I watched it like one time years ago, and I have never forgotten it. It just made such an impact on me because it's so unique and different. Mm-hmm. So I don't hate that the movie exists. I don't mean to say it shouldn't exist. It's fun. But I think I have a soft spot for the original.
What did you like about the original more than this one?
I don't know, to be honest with you. It's something about the general vibe. The newer one feels more like a new thrillery movie. There's more it feels like there's more big action, big Hollywood stuff. Whereas I feel like the older one is a little bit... It feels a little more real and here. Mm-hmm. But
one distinct difference that I noticed, or was thinking about while we were watching it, is tone of the violence. In the original Hellraiser, my takeaway, or like my opinion on what the violence was like in that one, was like a sexual violence. There was a lot of nod to, I guess, the disgusting nature of sexual violence. And this one was much more, I don't know, was it like, and maybe you guys can help me out with this, like it seemed like it was more analogous to like drug dependency, or like withdrawal, or some sort of line to tie between those two.
You're tying because drug dependency exists in the movie?
Yeah, they kind of prime it a little bit with it, and I don't know if that's like an intentional cast towards the rest of everything that's in there. But that's just what was running through my mind. Another thing is like the character design is a lot different. In the original Hellraiser, Pinhead and the rest of the Cenobites are all like leather daddies, kind of. And in this
That's
one...
true.
In this
Is that the reason it feels more sexual to
I think
you?
so. I mean, not only that, there's like, I'm pretty sure there's some actual rape scenes in the original one, which is pretty rough.
These ones are naked completely.
Yeah, well, these are like skin suits. It's more...
Well, of their own skin.
Yeah, of their own skin. Mm-hmm. And I like that. I think it's more visceral.
I thought it was, the one scene where the priest is like walking and it looks like she's wearing a dress, but you're like, no, they're not wearing dresses, are they?
No, they're not.
Yeah. Did you guys, I'm wondering, like, general vibe, maybe 1 to 10-ish, how uneasy did this movie make you?
I didn't really feel a lot of unease. I thought the designs were very cool, and I didn't want to stop looking at them. Really, it wasn't like none of them felt grotesque because none of them really looked like they were random. Like they really did a good job of making it look like that Leviathan creature, their god thing that creates the Cenobites at the end of the movie, in that white room thing. Like it's really thinking about what it wants these creatures to look like and experience and stuff like that. So because of that, it isn't just a botched job, kind of like, the thing looking like Abomination.
It's like artistic.
Yeah, exactly. Like they, like the way that they're all pinned up, all serves some form of purpose to, get them to whatever threshold or, of thing that that individual was perhaps seeking. I don't know what makes a Cenobite become, a type, but yeah. I thought, it was interesting that it didn't repulse me. And I really, really love the whole shifting, hyperdimensional situations that they did with the rooms.
It was so good.
Yeah, like...
That was good.
I loved how slowly but sure... I love how the movie never has anyone outright say, how does this work, right? But the movie itself, just through the actual shots, at the beginning, it looks random, but then the director knows that by this point you have questions about like the way that the structure of how they're taking people looks like. And then they, punctuate it perfectly with that Nora lady getting taken from the back of the van and be like, how can it possibly happen when there's so many people around you, right? It's like, isn't it supposed to be like, like a disappearing act situation? And then they show you that it's a perceptual thing, and it's like eventually there will be a point where nobody will be looking at you because, they're looking at something else, and that's all it takes. They really go out of their way to accentuate the fact that a second is really all it takes a lot of the time for things to feel a certain type of way, for you to be gone, for for the pain to feel like forever, yeah, it was really cool. Like all of that stuff, quiet and under the movie, like no one's actively, if anything, this movie could have done with like 20 less lines of dialogue that just seemed a little fluff, and I only noticed them because like the rest of the movie was so quiet.
Just love this. Like I could have done with 20 fewer lines of
Yeah,
dialogue.
about 20. Yeah.
About exactly 20 too many.
Yeah, I mean the movie's not that long, right? And it really, like, there's one particular scene that I remember very clearly where in, God damn it, I'm blanking on her name. Riley, right? She gets away from the face mask monster and it gets stuck, right? And Colin outside asks her, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "I'm fine." And then he's like, "Okay." I'm like, unnecessary. And the only reason it's even more punctuated in my mind is because we had a little bit of a technical difficulty and we had to reset the place like right around there.
So you got to listen to bad dialogue twice.
Twice, yeah. I was like, wait, was that just me? No, that was bad. Yeah. Somebody could have taken a cue right there and been like, "We don't need for you to say okay off screen because she's like this," and he's like, "Okay."
For me, it was, I didn't even notice the okay because I was tripped up on the "I'm fine" in that place. It just seemed like a very casual line for a moment like that. Like,
Relatively speaking.
The whole exchange is way too casual for that situation. I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, just little things like that. But I mean, I don't know, I already don't think that this particular movie is that great, but the bones here for what I just saw in terms of like, I don't know how true they're being to the source material in terms of the lore, but I like the direction they're going in terms of that. And you know, you can obviously tell that this Voight guy is going to become one of the new Cenobites, right? Mm-hmm. So then, you know, they're adding to the thing, and that box is still out there, you know. So it's like and now Riley is a survivor, so she can actually work as some sort of mentor situation, you know, if somebody else got caught up in it, right? And it could also showcase, because she got her gift, right? She got lament at the end of the, like, so, which it took everything inside of me not to burst out laughing when she said that, because just because of the fact that she's like, yeah, that's still a gift. Like, you're gonna feel bad all of the time.
For the rest of your life.
You're gonna just feel terrible all the time. I was waiting for that thing just gonna be like, and it's gonna be exquisite. Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah. Every time we'll be watching through the window, watching you.
Yeah. Eating that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Not all pain has to be physical. I mean, like...
No. That's anguish, man.
Mm-hmm.
It just, like... It really... I think that aspect of it is brilliant because it's, like... There's no closure. It's just going to be an open box that you're accepting in your life for the rest of your life.
Yep.
After all of that loss. Which...
Mm-hmm. The ambiguity of it all is really what they're telling you is what even they as angels/demons wouldn't want. They're like, we like the certainty of what we got going on. Like, we serve this thing, you know, and we're doing what we can. And at this point, we like what we're, you know, the pain that we're going through. You won't like what you got coming for you.
Way worse.
Yeah, and every day you'll wonder, and every day you're going, you know, and every day that's going to hurt more and more.
Yeah.
And no one can help you with it.
Yeah.
At least we have, because even they as Cenobites have a community and people with them.
Community.
Yeah. They have potlucks. They go out on Sundays. And...
I mean, they roll deep every single time, right? I mean,
that's true. The whole gang of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They do not react at all when one of them gets ripped to pieces.
Yeah, if anything, they seem bemused by it.
Mm-hmm. They did seem bemused. There was like the tiny smile corner curve.
On a pinhead, yeah.
You mean when like the biting guy gets killed?
Yeah, when he just and he's like, it seems he was just as fine with it as
that's what I'm
else.
saying. Yeah, it's like they themselves don't. Yeah, they've genuinely transcended to whatever next threshold it is, because I mean, like they're so okay with the situation as it comes. Like,
I mean, that's like the rules of their god, you know? It's probably like martyrdom or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, this is how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, and not only that, but it's nice because this Eldritch horror, the Leviathan thing that we only ever get to see as the giant diamond, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, it seems to be really, like, it has like that, it has extremes when it comes to honoring things, you know? It's like we told you, we want to sacrifice, you know? We didn't specify it had to be one of your friends. You just have to pick somebody. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
And the thing's like, well, all right, cool. That works.
That is a sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you willing to get close enough to the Cenobites and, you know, potentially get, hurt by them in order to make it so one of your fleshier, weaker friends don't get hurt.
One of your fleshier. He doesn't run very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's nice that it's like an open field situation there. It's like they're not, because it really makes it, that's really one of like the pivoting things of what makes like a monster be like, go from just like a feral thing that you can't, reason with, or like, oh, it's petulant, to this thing where it's like, oh, like the predator essentially, like it's like they take it to the chin whenever they themselves lose, but they know, deep within themselves that they're way more superior, like their civilization is way bigger, whatever they got going on is way, so it's like we don't want to make it, we don't want to dishonor the fact that we're way better than you by not accepting the fact that you nicked us this time.
It's not pure chaos, it has rules.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that is really good when it comes to building on top of, because as if this is the first one now, right? And it's building with the admixture of the past and mulching that up and then making that be the new bricks. It's like it feels like they picked the right parts, at least from a person who understands that what I'm looking at isn't original content, but a remix of something. I feel that they picked the right things. The only thing I didn't like that much was just the characters themselves, like.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, like
kind of vanilla.
There wasn't a lot of depth, I don't think.
Yeah.
They were all pretty predictable.
Yeah, they were all
characters.
archetypes, like Riley is the recovering addict. We don't even know from what, really. They should just show, nondescript pills that she's taking. They don't cause you to hallucinate. That's the only thing we know about them. So
what I do like is I feel like the movie gives you hints about the end. That's one thing I noticed that I picked up on a second watch through, because I more and more the movie like came back to me as I like saw the characters, and I was like, oh yeah, that guy dies, in my head. But like early in the movie I noticed like little clues of things toward the end. Like the one I think that we brought up downstairs was Trevor's apartment looked pretty expensive for a recovering addict. He looked like he was doing quite well, and you pointed out at one point you were like, what's he addicted to? Because it didn't get brought up, which is like just enough to stir a little suspicion, I think. I think that's kind of nicely done.
That's a really good point. I didn't realize that until Jose brought that up. It never crossed my mind that like this dude living by himself without an apparent job in a warehouse apartment type deal.
That looks nice.
But like a nice
and
loft
well furnished
style.
and like
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked very nice.
Well, no sheets on his bed, which is like kind of fucky, but
I
whatever.
think sheets are all they had during that like sex scene.
That brief yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there was a blanket.
Well, he didn't have a fitted sheet. That's what was bothering me. It's like, get a fitted sheet.
It was just on a mattress?
There's like a loose sheet on a mattress that they were banging on, yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
That's one little personal gripe.
They do a
Gross.
really good job, of
Gross.
interlacing Trevor's
bachelor.
duplicity throughout the movie. Like it's a lot of ohs after the fact. Like, and he genuinely is, in my opinion, the most sinister character out of all of them. Like, if there is a truly evil person in the movie, it's Trevor. Because, okay, Voight, I can understand. He had he was rich asshole with a lot of curiosity. He really wanted to see where this box thing was taking him, right? His big sin was genuine curiosity on top of the murder, right? But, Trevor was just doing it for money? Like holy shit. And it's really cool
It's
because
probably a lot of
at the
money.
beginning of the movie, when he's first hinting at like, oh, I have this, I know about this warehouse, and it's like there's this lock, they do a really good job of laying it thick that he's trying to do like a reverse psychology manipulation on her, being like, no, you're trying to get your life on track, like you should be like, but all the while I was like, why is he doing that? Like it doesn't seem like he's got much going on in terms of like in terms of why he would need to be so again evil like
yeah,
that.
it strikes you as weird.
And Yeah, I mean, all of his movements of trying to push her away from the box and trying to make it seem like, oh no, I'm trying to make it so you don't do these things.
Well,
It's
and
like,
the second they find it, she's like, well, if you don't want it, I'll take it. And he's like, yeah, you hold on to it. And then later, when she tries to give it to him, he's like...
I wonder if... Didn't he say at some point near the end of the movie that she was intended to be a mark? Like, basically, she dodged the blade. He wasn't expecting her to dodge the
Right.
blade. He was expecting her to be the first one in. Yeah.
Yeah, one sticking point that it isn't a gripe toward the movie, but just like the rules of the movie is that they're so like the Cenobites and stuff are just so nonchalant as to who they take as far as like a sacrifice that the box takes in. Is that a new iteration thing, or has that always been the case, or like how did it work back in the actual original Hellraiser? Like, what were the rules of the box and stuff?
What I remember is a huge lack of clarity about that particular thing in the original.
I do think they answered fewer questions, but I don't want to say that with certainty because it's been a long time since I've seen it, and I might have just forgotten some context clues.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they don't lay it down as, thoroughly as they do in this one. Then.
Not even close. Yeah. Like, the fact that this one, we see shots of a book describing the different configurations and the names for them and the number of steps.
Big bold and in big capital.
Big capital. Sexy capital.
Like, if you want to pause the movie at any time to read through the notebook,
feel free. Yeah, as far as I remember, none of that is in the original movie. And the original movie is also a much smaller, more contained story. I think it all takes place, like, in an apartment building, like, in a single room. And I think the protagonist in the original has no idea what they're doing.
No.
There is, like, a shared similarity in that there seems to be some sort of supernatural, enticing quality that the puzzle box has, without really knowing what it is, which I like, and I think that was a good thing to keep. But there is, like, it's weird because the hyperviolence is almost exactly the same amount. Like, in the first one and the second one, there's the ripping and the tearing, that's all over the place. But it is way more confusing than this one. This one is like, we'll build a little lore. Here's like some groundwork for if this movie makes enough money and we're gonna make more. Here's some actual like solid stuff. I've never seen there's like 2 or 3 more Hellraisers that are older that are sequels, and I've heard they're garbage. But the one thing that they do
I saw the second one, but I don't really remember that one at all.
What they do is I think they expand on the overall universe building of the Cenobites and what they are, what they're like, what their deal is, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Yes. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Hannah.
Sorry. Dog's gagging.
Gross.
Yeah. She's making gross sounds for the recording.
Hannah.
That's what she thinks of your
Whoever's
opinion.
off camera is hacking. Yeah, I was just going to agree with you. I do think that this movie, well, I think there's an argument for this being a good thing and like the ambiguity being a good thing on either side. I do think this movie really gracefully answers all the questions without it feeling like it's trying to tell me everything about this universe. And that's rare. It's rare that I leave a movie feeling like I have a big picture understanding of everything going on when it's a complicated movie like this, and not feeling like the movie like forced it into the dialogue in a really ham-fisted way.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
So I like that. I do. Your other question, though, feels like quite some time ago now. But, like, how much does this movie make you uncomfortable? I don't think, like, the Cenobites make me uncomfortable. I think the, like, torture-y scenes sometimes do a little bit. But part of that is because they're so slow. And I think that's one of the things that's done well about the movie, because that is a visceral reaction that they're trying to get in this story. So Yeah, I think at some points this movie does make me uncomfortable with all the hooks and the big needles in people's throats and stuff like that. But I think it's, it's not a complaint point for me. It's what it's trying to do, and I think it accomplished that for me.
Follow-up question to that one. In terms of fun, 1 to 10, starting with you.
Ooh, I do think this movie is fun. I want to give it a 7.
7 out of 10 for fun?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why?
I just think that's, like, for me, that's accurate. Like, for me, like, the new Evil Dead movie, that's, like, 10 out of 10 fun. The whole thing is fun, man. Like, there's a lot of shock laughing and stuff like that. For this one, I think this movie is fun. It's a ride, but it's not... I'm not, like, constantly, like some really fun horror movies, I'm constantly, like, oh, that kind of thing. Or, like, laughing at it. I don't do a lot of that with this movie, but I still did have fun. So, 7.
Yeah. In terms of fun, I would say probably a 6, because the more I'm thinking about what you were saying is about like how they're, I don't know if it is intentional, but I see it now. They're underlying meshing of drug addiction to like the use and abuse that the curiosity of the box kind of can permeate. It makes it so that subject matter just can't make the movie be that fun, right? Because who we're following is a recovering drug addict, and what they're going through in their life is very serious and and stressful. Like, it's eating away at her and her brother's relationship. It's fraying it to a great degree, and then she gets another more deadly and extreme addiction by wanting to continue with this box, and her brother always being first to the rescue because her parents are non-existent in this movie. I don't know who the fuck they got going
They
on.
never even talk about
They
parents.
don't
No, they don't exist. Yeah.
Yeah, the characters continue to feel flatter.
People reproduce by budding here, for sure.
They just split into more people.
No, I thought, wasn't that your twin sister in the lead role for the taking the drugs? You must know her. You got the same. I'm just going to put a picture of her hair next to your face. Let the audience decide.
I don't know how
hers
long
is
it's
so
been.
unkempt.
I don't know how long it's been since I've had hair that unkempt, but
Yeah.
yeah, maybe back when I used to wear a hat like over my head. I mean, over my whole hair all the time. Then yeah, for sure.
Jose keeps his curls under control.
Yeah, I have fortunately enough money now to go to a good barber to keep the jungle tame now.
Keep the jungle
To
tame.
avoid the dangers of being emo.
Yeah, seriously.
I do like that seemed to bug you the most, and it's like, I think it's because you can connect and feel it. You're like, take care of those.
Well, not only that, I can viscerally feel it. You want to talk about the visceralities of the movie, right? It's one of those things.
That's
like
what made you
as a
uncomfortable.
person, yeah. It's like, I feel how the hair's probably in the wrinkles of her eyes. You know what I mean? Like how they just probably sit in there and like. And it's clumps of it, She does nothing to try
she
to,
doesn't even brush it out of her face. Like,
even
with
in
her
the
hands.
middle of, like, doing shit. Like, she's not actively trying to move her hair out of her way. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, with a movie with interdimensional angel demons and stuff like that, that's probably one of the crazier and less realistic things is the fact that she can... But... Then it goes to show, the fact that her being a recovering addict, I don't know, again, the flatness of those characters just makes it difficult because in her archetype, we don't know how long she's been a recovering addict, Yeah. All we know is that it's been a couple months since her last rehab thing, and now she's been okay for a couple months, and that's pretty much...
He said almost a year. At the beginning, her brother said that she'd been clean for about that long, which is surprising because she doesn't act like someone who's been clean for a year.
Yeah, like her shit's not really together.
Well, it doesn't seem like he's built any trust for her either.
That's true.
So it gives me a vibe that she has been having bad behaviors.
We also could be looking at, we could be walking into the downswing of her recovery, right? always have that beginning mania of coming out of rehab, being like, yeah, like things are gonna work out, and
My
you know,
life is fixed.
and then and
Life
then
is my new drug.
yeah, exactly, and then slowly but surely, you know, a year later, right,
Yeah.
we're now finding her at this particular day at this particular time, and
Yeah.
you know,
Behind on her bills,
Yeah.
fighting with her brother. It's different.
exactly. And she's probably only going to those 12 session meetings to appease him. So she's like, well, since I'm appeasing him, might as well bang this guy. And then I don't know, maybe she does look like maybe her unkempt hair and everything like that does make her look like the, you know, easiest mark in the whole room
Oh yeah.
for that Trevor guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it seems like there is like maybe tangential to the drug use thing, this through line of like guilt and shame. Which sort of culminates in her choosing lament.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I thought of that. Anyway, what do you guys feel that's like a through line, sort of a theme?
I feel like earlier in the movie, she seems to me like someone who like is mad about the way she's treated, you know, like she feels like she's kind of proven herself and everyone's still kind of treating her like a baby. And the whole roommate situation does that, you know, like they don't drink around her, they've got routines for making sure they know where she is and when she'll be home. So I don't know if I pick up on anything before the situation where her brother dies,
Right.
of guilt, but maybe it's like repressed guilt that's coming out as anger, that her brother has to worry about her all the time when he's got this relationship and life and she's living in his apartment, she can't pay rent, like
Right.
those are very normal things to feel guilty and shitty about.
Yeah, she like projects onto him at one point like, you just want something to fix or something like that. She says.
Yeah. Which is pretty much what causes him to just be like, well, get the fuck out.
Yeah. I'll fix you right now.
Yeah.
Pack your bags.
Yeah, I'll fix you this eviction notice, right? Yeah, no, I mean, I can see it for sure. I guess if that would be one of the intentional through lines, that they do make that one a little more blatant, because she does mention the fact that ultimately what she wants at this point in her recovery is for people to just be a little less ashamed of like hanging out with her and like,
Yeah.
you know, having to be around her and stuff like that. Because as you said, everyone's still walking on eggshells about like, oh, what can we do while we're around? Like, you know, what will be a trigger, you know, for her, and like.
Oh yeah. And if I had been
condescending.
clean for a year and then I had a guy in my room from the program or whatever and he left, like it would be frustrating if you've maintained being clean for a year and having people having problems with that, saying that you're going to relapse when he relapses. Like I get it, it makes sense. It would be a concern that I had as her sibling too, but it would be frustrating to hear stuff like that continually a year later.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you think the Cenobites would have brought back Matt if she would have chosen?
Oh, what's their monkey
that's
paw
such
interpretation
a good
of like
question.
resurrection?
Yeah,
Lazarus?
yeah. Yeah, she would have picked Lazarus, yeah.
That was picking away at me.
You know, because they do that whole thing in the, you know, in her dream escape thing where she hugs him, but whenever she gets to see a real perception, right, it's like all flayed and stuff like that. I would have to imagine that would probably stick, and it would be
flayed.
It would be a situation where he would come back looking normal, traumatized, and anytime she looked at him in the mirror or some sort of reflection, she would see the real him kind of thing, where like, you know, his soul would be flayed, or let's say, you know, like that kind of, you know.
Yeah.
That's what she would see whenever, you know, so she would never get to experience the joy of hanging out with her brother anymore like that, because not only would she be the only one privy to what caused him to be that way, she would also have to deal with looking at him, you know, in real form, you know.
Yeah.
While everybody else would just, you know, see a catatonic guy, be like, oh, something happened to him, he got
Yeah.
kidnapped or something.
Or maybe like I could also see like them just being like, okay, we'll take you. Your brother comes back. Good deal. Like you're the flayed one now, and we'll let your brother live, and he can be lament or
That
whatever.
would be like some monkey paw
Yeah.
stuff. It's still like it still doesn't quite feel. Maybe with that trade off, I could see it, but like if you put it in the situation at hand, like presumably he's in hell being tortured all the time, you know? So it's like almost any situation where he himself actually does come back would still feel like an improvement for him.
I
even
don't
if
think
there's
that
a
they
great
go to
cost.
hell. I mean, she just mentions the fact that when he died, she was there, and I would imagine that she would then know whether this demon thing would know whether that actually leads to them being sent to a hell per se, because the Cenobites are alive, they can die even, and they're just ascended creatures, they're threshold passers essentially, help, I mean, like passed on through by the help of the Leviathan,
Yeah.
but they're still of this plane of existence, I would say.
Or able to move between the planes.
Yeah, possible.
Because it seems like there is another dimension somewhere at the fringes of our reality that they're able to sort of
Yeah.
move in and out of.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what they said to, I think her name was Norma?
Nora?
Nora, thank you. When they took her, is they like described sensation or pain to her in some way, and they were like so much more that the body can feel, and then they said, and you'll have felt all of it by the time we're done with you. So I don't know if I don't know how long that period of torture goes on, but I think there is a period of torture. And then maybe they die? Because it's called Lazarus, I have to assume they actually die.
Because what's called Lazarus? Wait.
The gift is called Lazarus to bring them back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would only make sense. Well, unless they just mean like bring back from the other dimension too.
I just mean like Lazarus. I mean, I'm assuming that's a nod to like the Bible story where
Yeah.
Lazarus is brought back from the dead.
Right.
Yeah. Was Lazarus in hell though? Where was he? Wherever,
They don't talk about that in the Bible. It's a good question. Even in the one where it's written more like a parable, they don't. I don't know. They say he stinketh, I think. Like he raiseth and he stinketh. But that's probably just because he was rotting.
He probably shit his pants.
Yeah. He voided his stuff when they killed him. Or when he died. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean those are things that the sequel could play with, let you know
Yeah.
whether they're whether when you die, even at the hands of Leviathan, if you just go to the void, just cease to exist in that moment, or because I mean it could also be like if they would have brought him back again, it could have been like a shell situation. Here's his body back, kind of like how they dropped her, like Colin, all right, well, done with this guy. We'll put him on.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, you're still breathing, isn't it? Isn't that what you guys care about? Yeah, again, miscommunication as to levels and degrees of care. They're like, well, I mean, there he is. So, better get him to a hospital if you really care about it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I could see it being something like that, like a shell situation where he's never gonna be like the person that you thought you were bringing back, or I could see just traumatized beyond belief and doesn't want to be back here.
The movie actually gives a little nudge in terms of where it lands on that, I feel, because if you recall the hallucination she had before everybody gets to the mansion, right? She sees her brother the second time. Oh no, the first time when they're hugging each other, and then
in the mirror.
Yeah, and Matt. No, when she goes downstairs to the sex dungeon, he's standing there, and she's like, "Are you Matt?" That might have already been the second time then, because he's like, because then Matt asks, "Do you want me to be?"
Oh yes.
Yeah.
So, and then she has to say yes, to it, which would be a wish granting situation. I would imagine in that way, which, I would imagine in the eldritch logic of Leviathan is a real big kindness, because it would probably thought that it was throwing her a bone at that at that point. It's like, here, you want to hug your brother's corpse? I don't know. I don't know how these things work.
I'm just trying to help.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure you out. All right.
Take him, you're mad. And
Give him back, take him, you're mad. Give him back, you're mad. Yeah.
I don't know what people want.
And now at the end you want nothing? What? Boo on you. Boo.
Yeah. You killed people.
Yeah, exactly. People died for this,
so far to be here.
You ask for sensation, and then you cry about the key machine in your chest. I don't get it.
Yeah. That's like a TI 6040 that he's got like on his fucking
Okay.
Is that a graphing calculator joke?
Tactical.
It's a graphics card. Just
Oh yeah.
I don't understand what's being like run through that. Like,
it's spooling his nerves.
Yeah.
Like off of his body?
Yeah,
Like
and then
in and out
of his body. Yeah.
And they reconnect
and
on
they
the other
reconnect
side?
somewhere. Yeah.
I think they're all still connected.
Not
They're
only
just
that,
wound up.
not only that, but I
They
think
get
the
twisted.
machine is actually revivifying him as he's doing it. Like as it takes out, it like I would imagine cleans it or makes it better,
Puts it
so it
back
puts
in.
it back in. Yeah, so he can keep feeling that and it's at random intervals, so he'll never be able to like time it to like learn to dull it or like figure some pattern to.
He mentioned not being able to numb.
Because it can just happen anytime. That one did. I'll take back what I said. That invention, when it actually showcases the spool and like it going through, that actually did look really icky.
Gnarly, yeah.
A little unease.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. If you guys had the puzzle box, what would you pick?
I would pick not to
Not to
mess
play.
with it. Like,
Yeah.
what do you
No,
mean?
it's too late. Like that.
Like, what
foregone.
gift? Is that the question?
What gift? What gift are you taking?
Is the assumption that I've already gotten people killed?
Yeah, or somebody else. Regardless, you were the one at the end holding the thing. So
That's
you're talking to God.
The movie is doing a great job of laying down groundwork because we've only learned about Lament, Lazarus, and Leviathan so far.
And liminal.
Huh?
Liminal was what Voight took.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the
Liminal.
sensation.
The sensation.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool. There's still a couple left over that, right? Isn't there?
There's 6 configurations. So we know about liminal.
We don't know what love does,
No.
and we don't know what laudorant. No, laudorant is love.
We should really have a laptop, like
Yeah.
some kind of professional
I
assistant.
got a little one.
Yeah, liminal, Lazarus, Leviathan, and so Leviathan turns you into a Cenobite. Liminal is sensation, and then Lazarus is some sort of monkey paw resurrection
Of
Something.
somebody who's been sacrificed.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Some
Like,
pet cemetery bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
Type thing.
I looked up Hellraiser gifts, and it's like Hellraiser merch.
Would
Not
you
like-
like a stabby puzzle box?
I got a gift for somebody who just loves Hellraiser.
yeah. So
Knowledge.
yeah, lore. That's the other
Lore.
one. Lore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good for a sequel. Now that we know more about it, right? The next thing could be somebody looking to just learn more about the box. And that's what causes them to want to open it. Because they're like, unlike those other fools where they were looking for sensation and they were looking for, like all of these carnal pleasures. I want what's in the mind,
Yeah. And then he turns into some mega mind freak or something ridiculous.
Yeah, yep. I can totally see that, like where it's some bulbous brain situation or like a big brain in a jar kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. A floating head. Like, there you go.
Yeah, I would. I'm already halfway into my seat now in terms of watching that
For
one.
part
Yeah.
two.
Yeah, and Riley would be perfect for it in that sense because she's like, I know what it is, and I am I am one of the partakers of the gifts. Like you're looking at one of the people who won the game and got one of the gifts of. Like you don't get, you don't understand what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Here, like.
Yeah. She's trying to warn the new protagonist, and he's like, "Fuck you."
Well, she has she really gets to know what 3 of the gifts do
Yep.
from that one thing. So that's a great start.
Yeah.
You got 3 knowns and 3 wild cards.
Not bad. 50-50 for misery. I get. I don't know. What do you?
So far, 3 out of 3 are definitely bad. But maybe the other ones are good.
Yeah, like that's what I was wondering. Is like, is it worth it to just jump the shark and take Leviathan? Like, just.
I would imagine
No,
at
for
that
me, the risk reward is just not there. Like, everything looks horrendous. Lament seems like the safest bet for.
That's like, shit, I was already doing that shit. Like,
I already know how to use drugs and like numb that shit.
Yeah, no, I would imagine it almost feels like a pyramid scheme, really.
you get 3 centibites under you, and then
It honestly just feels like a big pyramid scheme, really, because ultimately they tell you that you can't ever exit the game once you're part of it. You can only begin accepting larger thresholds of gifts, right? And so that means that you'll always end up having to ultimately pick the Leviathan option eventually, because you'll run out of the last threshold, right? Like eventually you'll hit whatever wall you think you will, and you'll eventually reach the peak, which is just dominance and power, like they said. The only thing that can be at the tippy top is giving that all back down to everybody else.
Well,
afterward.
also, like, the second you get your hands on the puzzle box, it's like, okay, go recruit 5 more.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
reward.
No, I like the ring. I mean, the ring aspect of it, yeah, in that way where it's like the malevolent creature is doesn't really care who it takes, I like the fact that it's kind of like that, but at the same time, like I said, it also bugs me just because sometimes it felt like nonsensical who it was taking, but at the same time it isn't, because if it is supposed to be some sort of parallel to drug addiction, right? Like in the whirlwind of the moment, like anybody can get hurt that or is close to you, or like is willing to help, and you're not willing to help yourself yet because you're still more curious about how deeper the rabbit hole goes, right?
They did. Everyone we saw her interact with in the movie got hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think Colin will ever be okay? Like,
what's okay?
Colin could even be the protagonist of the second one. He might be the one to be like, no, listen, like maybe we should go back and figure this out. She's like, no, what the fuck are you talking about?
I want to figure out what happened to me in there. Like,
Colin doesn't seem like the type. He seems like the type that wants to go home and live in peace. He never wanted any of this.
Yeah.
And he's lost his partner, and I'm not sure Colin's gonna make it, honestly. He really took some damage. And
I don't know. Hard to say, and from my personal position for Colin, because I mean, he went to the mansion. He, even before Trevor proved himself duplicitous, he followed him. He went with him. He was willing to throw down and continue helping Riley, even though at this point he had every right to just vamoose out of the situation because, like, hey, listen, the only threat that I had with you was your brother, and I can either assume he's murdered or he's, gone off and left us, because he can't stand the situation anymore.
I think Colin's archetype is predictable in that way too. Like, he's not a super deep character. What he is in the movie is the caretaker. Like, he'll go to whatever lengths to protect and to help. He's the first person on people that are hurt every time it happens. Even when it's Trevor, who he barely knows, he's like applying pressure to wounds. He's there, and like he's also the one who told Riley not to leave that night. He's trying to keep everybody okay all the time. He was trying to keep Matt in bed when Riley came home. He's like, he's the caretaker of the group. So I think if somebody was in danger, or if he got it in his head that he could still save Matt, then that would be the only reason he would go back.
And I could see that at being, like, again, because it's all about trying to it's all about trying to showcase the unraveling of miscommunication in terms of, say, archetypes, right? Because in our human conceptions, that's the way a caretaker would go about doing it. But like from the Leviathan perspective of it being like, you go to any lengths, right? And it's like Like, and in order to do so, you need to know more about this. You know, he could pick love and lore. He could be the one to do, you know, both of the ones that. It'd be cool. No, I mean, like, again, really nice the fact that there's a lot of you know, things still up in the air in terms of that. There's a lot of potential here, which makes me, you know, in retrospect, like the movie even more, because, you know, I'm playing around with it, and I'm like, you know, turning it around in all angles, and there's
Careful with that thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And although certain parts are flat, like the characters, you know, other sections are deep, you know, and it makes me want to put my finger into that hole.
Yeah, the characters, I think, robbed this movie a little bit. Even from the beginning, you were already picking up on it. Like, at the beginning when Riley and Trevor walk out of that bedroom, and slowly, like, the focus shifts to Riley. Jose was like, whew, I thought that other guy was going to be the protagonist.
Yeah, thank
like,
goodness.
he just screams bad character, like...
Yeah. Cheesy or corny.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it could have been a lot more if the characters were deeper and there was more to discover about them. But I felt like they very much stayed in their own lanes and roles from beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. Like, Riley's like the brave one that makes irresponsible decisions the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's tough because the movie narratively, right, is it bisects itself, because the movie ultimately, in the umbrella of it, is Voight's story, right, of him trying to move his deals with the Cenobites forward. Like, that's really the driving factor of it all. Is you know, you start the movie off with him finishing his first deal with them. Him, you know, you off screen, you don't actually get to see the rewards, the fruits of the reward, but then afterward you pivot over to them, and then until much later you realize that they're also just thralls in his, you know, unwitting thralls in his, like, machinations of what he's trying to do. So because of that, I can understand why the other characters are more archetype than anything else, you know, but it doesn't help because even Voight doesn't have that much of characterization aside from fucking
Greedy, evil guy.
Yeah, evil guy.
Yeah, that's really all there is.
I
Well,
could've-
at least we don't spend a lot of time with him, so I noticed that one less. When you need to spend the whole movie with other characters,
Yes.
and they're just flat, it's a lot more noticeable for me.
Yeah.
There's not a character arc.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking, I don't know if this would have helped or hurt really, but I was wanting more Cenobite screen time. Like, maybe not necessarily more, like, explanation, but, like, definitely more interaction, maybe some more dialogue from, like, other than just Pinhead, and I think the other one is called The Gasp, is what it said in the subtitles. I'm guessing there's, like, a fuzzy line somewhere where then the movie's just not as interesting anymore, but it would have been nice to, because the character models are so cool, and the sort of mystery, the whatever the lore is behind them is just fascinating and enticing. Like, that is if they made a sequel, I would certainly want more of that going on.
I think they did a good amount for, like, I think maybe, and I don't know this for sure, but I think maybe they kept the screen time for each Cenobite limited on purpose. And it's, like, for me, it seemed like it was for that, like, savoring aspect. Is, like, every time I see them, I'm, like, trying to take them in as much as possible, you know, because you see kind of all their faces throughout the movie, but just for little bits of time.
Just a taste.
Yeah, and it's like you're trying to figure out, like, is that a robe? Is that skin? Like, where'd it come from? Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, you don't want to demystify them either by
Right.
you know, by having them be too much in the shot.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I was thinking. There's probably a fuzzy line somewhere where it becomes not as interesting.
It's
anymore.
a movie monster rule. You're not
Yeah.
really supposed to overshow the movie monsters.
Unless it's really freaking cool. In
You're
which
still
case,
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Then
Yeah,
you get
'cause-
bored, they get old, you know?
Yeah.
Real fast.
Yeah.
Usually, like, my favorite Like, my favorite look into a movie monster, to be honest with you, is from The Ritual, which we did earlier, and they bring it in so slow. Like, at first, it's like fingers around a tree trunk just way too high up, you know? And it's little implied shapes, and I love that, because that gives me a lot of, like, terror, because you're like, what you know?
Yeah, fear of the unknown.
Yeah, when you see something, and it might be scary, but you haven't identified it yet, it gives you that feeling.
Right.
And I think that very few movies get that out of people. And I so appreciate it when they do.
Yeah.
And I think this movie does that just a little bit. Where you first see them, if a Cenobite is a new concept for you, you're like, oh, you know?
Yep.
They have quite a lot of nice little flourishes, though, that make it so every time you're looking at a Cenobite, you're looking at a different piece of it.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Good job with that.
And they catch them in, like, different levels of shot, too. They have, like, full body scenes of them, and then ones are just midriff.
Busts.
And then,
Yeah.
And
Just
then,
face.
And then just face, yeah. But they're really well partitioned apart from each other, so that, you know, and they interlayer them with different Cenobites, so then you're not just looking at one Cenobite anatomically, essentially, all the way, you know, all the way through. But yeah, they certainly weren't shy when it came, you know, they were certainly proud of what they made in terms of that, and I agree.
Yes,
it was
they
really
should
good.
be.
So cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as far as like movie monsters go, I don't know how well the Cenobites fit into that category. Still cool as hell, like, and way better than Weird Leather Daddy in the original sort of style, which I know you haven't seen. But if we pulled up some pictures, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's stupid compared to like this.
They
newer.
kept the good stuff though, like Pinhead.
Mm-hmm.
They kept that. The teeth chatter guy exists in both.
Yep, he's the same.
Yeah,
and then the like flayed neck lady is the same too.
Yeah, they keep some themes, but they reimagine them.
Very cool.
I think the teeth chatter one is brilliant every time.
It's
just
really cool.
bone chilling.
Which is great. The fact that that's the one Voight is becoming.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like it, or some version of it. Anyway.
Yeah. Especially, well, they lost one, right? It's like in the game they lost that.
Oh.
They lost the chatter,
right?
You know, so he's probably gonna have to make a new version. Probably not exactly the same, you know, but you know,
a little fresher.
Yeah, exactly.
Put a
like
little
this just
zest.
gives me, if anything, this just gives me a new opportunity to be me again.
I can do it, but better this time.
Yeah,
Let's see. No lips.
Yeah.
No, the last one had no lips. All right.
Well, that one's
really
a
had
given.
nothing.
Yeah, it's gotta have no lips.
Yeah.
Definitely no lips.
Teeth are way scarier without lips.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Do we have any more gripes to wrestle with before we?
I mean, I
Start
heard
to land the
earlier
plane.
that your only gripe of the whole movie is the one loose sheet on Trevor's bed.
I think so. Like, I'll like really try to spell out my thinking there when we get to ratings. But
Oh, by all means, let's dig into that right now.
Right
Yeah,
now?
I think so. I pretty much tapped out in terms of other concepts. Really, I mean, the movie wasn't that long, so it's
no.
like.
I think we.
Oh, but you
through.
you asked about any nagging last gripes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No, I liked the fact that I liked that how the mansion got like clustered up, like, you know, 13 Ghost style, like I said.
It was a cool mansion.
That was pretty cool.
Even if it was a square.
Yeah, you know, now
Rectangle.
I'm noticing that it's probably had to be rectangular in order to be able to have the closing and opening thing work.
This I think needs to get called out, because this is great, though, is in watching this movie, the first time we saw that mansion in this movie, Jose literally said, imagine having that much money and building a house that's a rectangle.
Yeah, seriously.
And it turns out it was purposeful.
Purpose built.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, exactly. I mean, subverted me.
You take that
I was like,
complaint and
"That's
get
dumb."
lost.
Took a big crow and shoved it right in your mouth.
Yep. That's what it's all about. Yeah, I like. That's why I personally like making assumptions in a movie early, just because I will either be confirmed in my assumptions or I will be pleasantly subverted and like there will be something else, you know. So it's like.
You tend to pick up on things that are done intentionally. though. Like, I noticed that you comment on things that matter later a lot.
I just set my claim. I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna pay off or not.
Called
you
it.
know? Yeah, I'm calling it now.
Placing bets.
Yep.
I love it. We need a points system.
Yeah. I think it makes a movie really, really fun. Yeah, because, a movie is ultimately a very passive way of going about things unless you try to add some sort of element of, interactivity of your own. Because you'll know the answers that the movie's willing to want to give you if you finish watching the whole thing. But,
so this is, for me, a 5 out of 5 horror movie and a 4 out of 5 movie.
5 out of 5 horror movie?
Yeah.
You like this as much as the other 5 out of 5?
Okay, I'll take Hereditary, The Witch, the new It movies, and maybe that Dr. Sleep, now that we've just watched that, and I will put all of these at 6 out of 5 movies.
No, you don't get
horror
to break
movies,
the scale.
and 5 out of 5 movies. Horror it is delicate. It's like a child's plaything.
Very easy to do badly.
Yes, exactly. So I think we need to give more credit when it's due to movies like that, and less credit to the ones that are campy for horror's sake, that are shock laughs for horror's sake. Like, horror has its own little microcosm of what you expect in a horror movie. It has its own set of silly tropes that don't really belong in any other genre except for horror. Like, it's okay for a horror to be campy and stupid, but we shouldn't just give it grace for that. We should still be critical of the film in the same way that we are with other films. So that's why I put it at a 5 out of 5 in the horror microcosm and a 4 out of 5 in the larger ecosystem of film.
I agree with what you're saying, but giving certain horror movies only access to a 6 out of 5 rating, I think greatly complicates the scale.
Yeah.
Why
can't those movies be 5 out of 5 and this would be a 4 out of 5 in horror rating?
It's like it breaks the mold. The ones that break the mold deserve the recognition for doing so.
That's what a 5 out of 5 is supposed to be, I think. The best that you can do.
Well, I'm imagining 5 stars.
Oh, dear God.
Drawn. And I gotta fill out each one of these stars. And I'm like, no, dude, this movie needs another star. Our ranking system doesn't account for stuff like this. For stuff like Hereditary, for stuff like The Witch.
I think the problem is that you're too giving of 5-star reviews, and now you're like, this is better than all the other 5-star reviews I've been giving out. So I see it as a problem that you created.
I don't see any problem here at all. There's no contradiction. Look, man, the alternate dimension visualization of the bricks and everything moving, it's fucking super dope. The costume design for all the horror movie monsters, super dope. I think we all agree on.
This was a very technically impressive movie.
Yes,
in my personal opinion.
Absolutely. Sure, it suffers from some flat characters and some not so great dialogue, stuff like that, but it makes up for it in everything else that it's trying to do, which is, in my opinion, make you a little uneasy, make you laugh a little bit, make us curious enough to discuss the nuances of it for an hour after we're done watching it. It has enough meat on the bones, and most horror movies don't. Most movies don't, if I'm being honest. This one is to the point where we're talking about 3 different potential sequels that this movie could have, because that's how much good stuff is in the first box. Anyway.
And so because of that, you want to break the rating and...
Yeah, I feel like you're just trying to subvert the topic. We're not arguing with you on your points about the movie. Yeah. I'm arguing with you about 6 stars for horror movies that break the mold, but not other things. I'd
be happy to movies like The Departed. For me, that's like a 6 out of 5 movie.
Why don't we just make a 6 out of 6? Like, why don't we just make the scale 6 if you're going to insist on
Yeah.
breaking the rule
No,
of the scale?
there needs to be a special category. Even more special than 5 out of 5. In my
So
mind.
dumb.
Yeah, I don't agree either.
You guys don't have to agree. This is my rating scale. All right, whatever.
We can have a consistent rating scale for the podcast for our viewers.
Why would we
Arms
want to do
crossed.
that? Why would we? We don't owe them anything.
Well, I think you're taking it a bit too far.
You're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen those other movies I've seen The Witch and stuff like that, but
I think we placed The Witch at a 5 out of 5 for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, I would say, I mean, if there were to be two different ratings for it, I would say it would be a 4 out of 5 on both for me. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
equaling an 8 out of 10 for a movie, for both in horror and movie aspect of it, because I again don't like the characters that much. Their archetype could have been played better.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the movie kind of has it's a bit too wide in terms of like, I guess I kind of want to say narrative scope, because you're going from Riley and then going from Voight to Riley, and it's like, and then it's like, although their desires and like what they're trying to do intertwine with each other, it takes a little too long, in my opinion, for that clinch to happen. Should have been done a little cleaner. I think maybe even like a quick scene where Trevor showing a little more duplicity earlier would have been better, because it's like, we already know that he's a shady guy, all right? So it's like, you don't have to keep playing that up too much. But it would be good to wonder, like, oh, who's he working for?
What's his motivation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beyond like.
It would have been cool if like that. What's her name? That lady who was in the gas, with the tank,
Oh, the lawyer lady or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. If she had like recognized Trevor or something like that, some sort of hinting, or being like, or familiarity, or like undue familiarity that like, us or Riley could have picked on earlier, just small things like that to tie in both sides together before it has to be threaded together because she's in the mansion at that time,
Right. Yeah.
Small things like that. Again, like the lore is really what is completely, wowing me about this movie. I like the monsters. I want to see more of the monsters. I want to get to know the psychology of the monsters more, and of their boss, and like what the what more they can offer, and like the variations on the stuff they can offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's pretty much what, like we were saying, like it's all about trying to decipher what we think we mean when we want something, and what they hear when they're actually like giving it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those like I think it's called semiotics, kind of like Arrival. That movie Arrival with the big aliens with the octopus aliens, where they're trying to figure out like what they want in terms of like, and how they process language stuff.
Yeah.
I think that theme is very cool.
Yeah. Where do you fall on the new one here?
I'm sitting at like a 3.5. I'm like really, I keep trying to lean hard one way or the other between 3 and 4, but I'm just really struggling because ultimately I think they did quite a bad job with characters, and it's really the centerpiece of the movie. And I second guessed it because it's like, well, the Cenobites are also characters and they were excellent, but no, the Cenobites are just taken straight from old Hellraiser movies. Not much about them changes other than they were visually reimagined. Their characters themselves are pretty much the same, and the actors would probably dictate most of the differences between like how they conduct themselves. So what I feel like I've learned is that the creators of this movie can't do characters, and that seems like a very fatal flaw to me in movie making. So I'm kind of landing at like right at a 3.5. If I had to lean either way, I would probably go up to a 4, because some of the things that I said, I really enjoy the Cenobites. I think this is a pretty clean movie to watch. I enjoy watching it. And I really like the shifts between dimensions and things like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think bad characters is a big problem. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This movie had a ton of potential.
Mm-hmm. It is a worry if there were potential sequels, just because the more we learn about the lore, you can't dip into that river twice, right? Like, we can't learn twice about the same lore. Mm-hmm. And if the characters don't become any stronger the second go around,
they can't carry it.
Like, then they won't be able to carry the water up high enough in the hill for me to care to reach the peak of whatever it is they're trying to, do here. Yep. Unless they shift like cinematic medium in terms of how they go about giving the story. Like, perhaps it could be like a documentary-esque situation in some other one, where it's like, if you already know that you're not strong in making a character that you have to follow, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, what about making some sort of like documentary-ish situation where it's like, we have this box and we've been trying to figure, been trying to figure out what to do with it, and then they do like, just doing like interviews or stuff like that, and like trying to run like batteries of tests on like the if they wanted to go a different direction, kind of like how Cloverfield, you know what I mean, like just flipped its switch when it came to same universe, same thing. Love that movie. The lore continued, right? It's like in the background you do learn more about what happened in the first one, but it's an entirely different means of going about showcasing the same situation. And
a rarity that it, in my opinion at least, far exceeds its original in storytelling scope.
Mm-hmm. And I am really, really hoping that they go with the lore option, just because it's, knowledge is such a morally ambiguous thing to us when it comes to being like, what is the right threshold and like moral line that we shouldn't be crossing to know more things, right. Because can't we save more lives by knowing more things, even if we lose a couple right now? Like that kind of already human rationalization. I would love to wonder and see like what an eldritch creature that can like make you immortal and make you its plaything would think on that.
That makes me think of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Like the same themes, very similar themes anyway. You could play with and do an amazing outcome. That show anyway.
This is kind of off the wall, but one thing that I really appreciate about this movie, because I noticed that it annoyed me, is I like when movies make me feel like I'm the main character a little bit. And I think when Riley chooses Lament, I feel that, because I also want to know what Lazarus does, and it makes me like, I have to go into my life now and not knowing that. Mm-hmm. And I think they kind of give you that second hand, like, FOMO. You chose this too, like, you don't get to know, and the main character doesn't, it's, you both feel it.
Yeah. Well, I'm all twisted up, just like our friend the Puzzle Box, especially because you guys didn't let me give 6 stars out of 5. That's fine.
Whatever. Yeah, because then you're giving the movie a 12 out of 10, like, 11 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like,
3 thumbs up.
A 24 out of 20.
Keep doubling it. I don't care.
3 thumbs up. Yeah. Get out of here.
Well, thank you as always, everybody, for tuning in to the podcast, and we will see you on the next one. Yep. Until then,
have a good night.
Good night.
Goodbye.